So, greetings to everyone, and please listen to the following teachings with the proper Mahayana motivation, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So, as you all know, we have been going through the teachings from the perfection of the words of my perfect teacher. That is the book that we are covering through. And so today we are covering through the sufferings, the three types of sufferings: the sufferings of the fear of losing one's loved ones, and the fear of the suffering of not getting what one wants, and the suffering of encountering what one does not want. So these three types of suffering that we were covering, and so today we will cover the suffering of not getting what wants. So if you have the book, it's on page number 89. I will start reading from the text and then keep on giving commentary. There is not one of us in the world who does not want to be happy and feel good, and yet none of us get what we want. For instance, a family a person might eat to satisfy his hunger, but the food makes him ill and endangers his life. Soldiers go to battle hoping for victory and immediately gets killed. A group of merchants go on a trading expedition in high hopes of profit, but are attacked and reduced to beggary. No matter how much effort and energy we expend in the hope of becoming happy and rich in this life, unless actions in our past lives have created that potential, we will not even be able to satisfy our immediate hunger. All we will do is to make trouble for ourselves and others. The only result we can be sure of achieving is not to be liberated from a single spark of light is more than So it tells us, in general, it tells the suffering of not getting what one wants. So there is the suffering or the pain of not getting what you want, and encountering what you do not want. So what you want. So one of the main reasons for that is that actually builds up our frustration, and then it leads to suffering. Most of the time that is mental suffering. The suffering of not getting what one wants, the suffering of not getting what you want, this will actually lead you into depression, and then it makes everything else, life, very difficult for you. And so this is one type of suffering. What use are samsaric activities that never comes to an end? All the effort that we have made throughout the beginningless time in samsara trying to get what we want has brought us nothing but suffering. In the past, had we taken all the energies we devoted to worldly aims over the early or later parts of just one life and devoted that energy to the Dharma instead, we would already be Buddhas by now. And if not, then at least we would definitely never again be subject to the sufferings of the lower realms. The main reason that we are the main reason we are going through the suffering, the suffering of any kind, the suffering of losing one's loved ones, the suffering of not getting what you wanted, the suffering of encountering what you do not want. Everything begins from something that is none other than the pursuit of happiness. So you wanted your life to be a little bit easier, to be happier, and to be free to be liberated from all the sufferings and pain that you go through. But in order to do that, all the measures that we have taken to alleviate our suffering has always been temporary measures that we have been taking. And so because it's always a temporary measure, it leads us only to the next sort of step, and then only to the next step, which when that path has been crossed, we touch upon another difficult path, and then we suffer, and then we cross that path, and then again we have to cross the next one, and we keep suffering and suffering and suffering on like that. So there's one the great masters of the past used to say that the pursuit of happiness in samsaric life is something like similar to drinking oceanic water, the water from the sea, to appease one's thirst. So when you are thirsty, you drink water to quench the thirst. But if you keep drinking salted water from the ocean, then no matter how much you drink, you keep on drinking, you will always remain thirsty. Similarly, the measures that we take the measure that we take in pursuit of the happiness that we are seeking has always been like similar to that of drinking salty water, salt water, and therefore even though we drink the water to quench our thirst, it always backfires. It always, instead of quenching our thirst, it makes us more thirsty. So that is the example. The drinking drinking oceanic water to quench one's thirst is the example. And in reality, what we do is, in order to get rid of pain and suffering that we go through, we had to endure in samsara, we create more and more causes and conditions for us to get into suffering. So the paragraph here, what use are samsaric activities, it actually reminds us that whatever samsaric pursuit that we have in order to gain happiness has always been futile, and it always leads us back to the problem that we have been trying to evade from trying to escape from. So therefore, had we taken some time to devote our time, had we taken the effort to invest our time in the Dharma, in the practice of Dharma, in the pursuit of Dharma, rather than the samsaric the pursuit of happiness in samsara itself, then our conditions would be a little bit different from what we are right now. But since we have always been doing pursuit, we have always been engrossed in the pursuit of happiness in the samsaric life, no matter how hard we try, we always keep landing back to where we have started. And so therefore, no matter how hard we try to get the things that we do not wanted, we always fail to achieve it at the end. So we should meditate as follows. Now that we know the difference between what we should do and what we should not be doing, let us stop putting great hopes in samsaric enterprises that will never be accomplished, and instead practice the true Dharma, in which accomplishment is certain. So the practice of Dharma is all about, going beyond the samsaric pursuit. Spiritual practice is all about going beyond the samsaric pursuit of whether you call it happiness or bliss or peace or whatever. The nirvana, as we call it, is actually the ultimate peace, and the ultimate peace only comes when you are beyond samsaric pursuit. So as long as your pursuit, your goal is in the samsaric life or the samsaric circle, then you, as the name suggests, the samsaric circle, you always keep going in circle, you always keep encircling. So no matter how much you keep running, you're always going round and round and round and round. So that's so you're always in going around in a circle. So therefore, in the pursuit, the practice of the Dharma, the practice of Dharma is all about applying your methods and your efforts into coming out or escaping that circle in which you are entrapped. So in order to escape from that entrapment, your pursuit also needs to be your perspective also should be changed. So we covered that many times before, like the example of the treadmill. If you keep running, no matter how much you keep running, if you keep running on the treadmill, no matter how much or how fast or how long you keep running, you will end up nowhere. But in order to get somewhere, you have to actually step down from the treadmill, and then you keep once you sit down, once you step down on the actual ground, then even if you move even one step or 1 inch, it will get you somewhere. Instead, if you keep running 24 hours on a treadmill, it will never get you anywhere. So that thing is something we have to keep in mind. And so just like changing your position from your running position from your running step or position from the treadmill to the actual ground makes a huge change. Similarly, if your perspective of the pursuit of happiness changes from that of the samsaric pursuit to the pursuit beyond samsara, then the goal of reaching happiness or everlasting happiness will also become much more certain. So the next, the suffering is known as the suffering of encountering what one does not want. The earlier was the suffering of not getting what you want. This one is getting what you do not want. Not getting what you wanted and getting what you do not wanted. So both of this type of suffering actually stems from the one of the 3 poisons, which is the poison of attachment. So not getting what you want becomes a suffering because you are attached. You are attached to the absence of what you are attached. You are attached to the presence of what you wanted. So because of that, when what you wanted is no longer there, then you start suffering because you are attached to the presence of the presence of what you wanted. Because of that, when what you wanted is no longer there, or you're not able to get what you wanted, start suffering. Similarly, the suffering of encountering what one does not want, or the suffering of not getting what you wanted, again stems from the 3 poisons. It stems from the attachment here again. So this one stems from the attachment towards the absence of what you wanted. So when what you wanted is no longer there, it is absent. Or you might say the presence of what you do not wanted, due to the attachment towards the absence of what you wanted. When you face the absence of what you do not want, then you start suffering because you are attached to the presence of what you wanted. So when what you wanted is no longer there, because it has been it has been replaced. What you wanted has been replaced by what you do not wanted. You start suffering because you are attached to what you wanted. So these two things, suffering of not getting what you want and suffering of getting what you do not want, these are like the two faces of one coin. So they both go hand in hand. Now, I will not read through the whole sort of text, but I will read from some of the quotes here. So one particular quote is the quote from the great omniscient one, which actually refers to Longchenpa, who actually wrote the Longchen Nyingtik, and this the words of my perfect master is actually commentary to the Longchen Nyingtik. So the great omniscient one actually said, you would like to stay with family, so that is us. You means us. Instead of saying you can say I or me. You would like to stay with family and loved ones. I would love to stay with my family and loved ones forever, but you are certain to leave them. I am certain to leave them. I would like to keep my beautiful home forever, but I am certain to leave it behind. I would like to enjoy happiness, wealth, and comfort forever, but I am certain to lose them. I would like to keep this excellent human life with its freedoms and advantages, 8 freedoms and 10 advantages, forever, but I'm certain to die. Let it go. I would like to study Dharma with my wonderful teacher forever, but we are certain to part. I would like to be with my good spiritual friends forever, but we are certain to be separate. Oh, my friends who feel deep disillusionment with samsara, I, the Dharmaless beggar, exhort you, from today put on the armor of effort, for the time has come to cross to the land of great bliss whence there is no separation. So this tells us that everything that we hold on to, everything that we sort of grasp into, thinking that it is everlasting, that it stays forever, does not stay forever, is not lasting, and so therefore we are meant to part. We are meant to leave them. We are meant to part with them. We are meant to leave them. We are meant to be separated from them. We are meant to be separated from them. So therefore, the more we get attached, the more we get entrenched into the things that we are attached, into the things that we are surrounded by. The more entrenched we get into the things that we are, the things that surround us, our family, our teachers, our friends, our children, everyone. To love them, to care for them, to look after them is one thing, but to be entrenched into the people that surround us into the objects, material things that surround us, that we that we use, and all that, that will actually lead us to nothing but suffering. Because the more entrenched we are, the more attached we are, because they are all meant to be separated one day, and when that day comes, we will suffer the most. But if you are prepared from the very beginning that you are going to be separate, that you are going to part, then your mind is always prepared that thing is going to happen. So therefore, there is no suffering, there is no sorrow when those things happen. So there will, at the very least, there will be no longer any disillusionment. So you are not fooling yourself. And as long as you are not fooling yourself, whatever suffering, whatever sufferings come, those sufferings comes in the external form. They happen in the outside world, but it does not affect you internally. So you no longer lose your peace of mind, and you remain calm and peaceful. And then you are able or capable of keeping your mental stability when those times come. Now I will go through the last quote again from on the Longchen Ramjamba. So on page number 91, it says, sometimes look at what you perceive to be favorable. If you know it is just perception, all you experience will turn out to be helpful. Sometimes, if you know it's okay, sometimes look at what you perceive to be adverse and harmful. This is vital, making you appalled at the deluded way you see things. Sometimes look at your friends and the teachers of others. Distinguishing the good from the bad will inspire you to practice. Sometimes look at the miraculous display of the four elements in space. You will see how effort subsides in the true nature of mind. Sometimes look at your homeland, house, and possessions. Knowing them to be illusory, you will feel disgust at the deluded way you perceive them. Sometimes look at the wealth and possessions of others. Seeing how pitiful they are, you will cast off samsaric ambitions. In brief, examining the nature of everything in all its multiplicity, you will destroy the delusion of clinging to any of it as real. Okay, so that concludes today's teaching. If you have any questions, then I'll be happy to answer.
Oh, what question? A couple questions for Michela.
Please go on. Yeah.
The first one is, could you please share and explain to us how we can avoid drinking oceanic water or drinking salty water?
The first question is how we avoid drinking salty water. Is that it?
Yes, Michela.
Okay. Yeah. Would you like to translate that, please?
Thank you, Michela.
Oh yeah. Okay. So a very good question. So the first thing you need to know is that you have to realize that the first thing to stop drinking the salty water is to realize that what you are drinking, the water that you are drinking, is salty. And the second thing is that by drinking salty water, the salty water will not be able to quench your thirst. So if you remember, there is of the Four Noble Truths. The first is the suffering. The second truth is the first truth is the truth of suffering. The second is the truth of the cause of suffering. So when the Buddha taught the Dharma, the Four Noble Truths, he said, know the suffering, know the truth of suffering, or realize the truth of suffering, and then avoid the truth of the cause of suffering. So the first thing you have to do is you have to realize that this is salty water. And the second thing is you have to realize and avoid the salty water, because the salty water will not be able to quench your thirst. You have to realize that. So that is the most important thing. And once you realize those two things, then you will look for the alternative. And that is the salty water is an example that we used, and the actual in reality, what we are doing is the pursuit of samsaric happiness, the samsaric pursuit of samsaric satisfaction, pursuit of samsaric satisfaction for everlasting happiness. Now we have to stop that. Of course, we need samsaric happiness. When we eat a food in order to fill our stomach. If we are not able to fill our stomach, then we will be in pain, and we will not be able to function properly. If we get sick, we have to when it's cold, we have to cover ourselves well. When it's too hot, we have to uncover ourselves. So these are all samsaric pursuits, of course. Getting good food, getting good clothes, all these things are samsaric pursuits, and they are necessary for our survival. And so whatever is necessary, we need to get them. But we also have to know that this is a temporary measure. If we take the problem with drinking drinking salty water is we are drinking salty water. If you drink salty water in general, it's okay. When we drink soup, the soup has been salted. It is salty, but we enjoy it. When we drink, if you have tried Tibetan butter tea, it is salty, but we enjoy it. So we enjoy drinking salty water at many times in our, we do enjoy drinking salty water, and there is no problem with salty water itself. The problem starts when you start drinking salty water to quench our thirst. So the thirst is actually when we look, or when we pursue samsaric happiness or samsaric satisfaction, when we pursue samsaric satisfaction for everlasting happiness, that is when that is same as quenching our thirst by drinking salty water. If you do that, then that is the problem. Otherwise, drinking salty water is not a big problem, because we drink salty water at all times. So here again, pursuing samsaric satisfaction, pursuing samsaric joyfulness, like a good family, a good partner, a good life, all these things, a joy in your life, is not a bad thing. So Buddhism is not a nihilistic tradition. It is not an abstinent tradition as well. So the Buddha Dharma, or Buddha, is not asking you to abstain from enjoying your life or having a good family and good life. What Buddha tells us is that if you think that that is all, the pursuit of samsaric satisfaction alone trumps every other pursuit, and if you think that will actually lead you to everlasting happiness, then you are wrong. Then you can't be further from the truth. So therefore, now to bring it to conclusion, to summarize, first of all, you have to realize that that your pursuit, the pursuit of samsaric happiness or samsaric satisfaction, should not be mistaken as the pursuit for everlasting happiness. If you are doing it for temporary measure, then it is fine. So if you drink salty water for temporary pleasure, it is fine. But if you try to drink salty water in order to quench your thirst, then you are making a big grave mistake. And so first you have to realize that it is salty water, right? And salty water by itself is not a bad thing. And the second thing is you should be avoiding it. You should be avoiding salty water, or you should be avoiding the pursuit of samsaric goals or samsaric aspiration in order to gain everlasting happiness. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, and the second is the truth of cause of suffering. So Buddha said, recognize or realize the truth of suffering, and then avoid the truth of cause of the suffering. So the cause of the suffering means here we are talking about that is in a reference to the drinking seawater to quench your thirst. If you do that, then you are making a grave mistake. Otherwise, you can use the seawater for drinking or any other purposes. If you feel like you want to drink that, that is not a big deal. It's not a big problem. But if you drink seawater to quench your thirst, then that becomes a problem. So the first thing is to realize, and the second thing is to avoid. Next question, please.
Next question, Rinpoche. Since Dharma path is very slow and it doesn't always yield quick result, how do we know that we are running on the treadmill and change our course? Thank you, Rinpoche.
Oh yeah, very good question again. So today's questions, all the questions are very good. Thank you. Just like any other enterprise in our daily life, whatever endeavor that we start, nothing yields result immediately. If something yields results very quickly, usually there's a catch to it. We all know that. There is if something seems very profitable in the very short very quickly in the very short run, then usually there's a catch behind it. That's we always become suspicious why it's happening so. And if we are not suspicious or we are not careful, usually these things lead to our own downfall. And this we are talking about our worldly pursuits, just in this lifetime. But when we talk about Dharma practice, we are talking about the pursuit of not just this lifetime, but for thousands and thousands of lifetimes, because we are talking about achieving enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So in this regard, it will certainly take time, and just because it doesn't yield result in the short term does not mean it is not working. Even if you plant a tree, right? It is something in the nature. It's something very easy to sort of like comprehend. But when you plant a tree, it takes several years for that tree to bear fruit. But you will always know that whether the tree is drying out or whether the tree needs more water or less water or whatever. Similarly, when we do the Dharma practices, there is something called, in Tibetan, we use the word shage and dage loge. So anyway, what it means is shag and ge means interest, daily interest, monthly interest, and yearly interest. When we invest in some business, we always look for we invest by with the interest in mind. We need so similarly, it is said that for the best practitioner or the most excellent practitioner, it would be daily interest or daily sort of milestones will be achieved daily. and for the middle practitioners, you will see results in months, and for the least excellent practitioner, there will be results within years for sure. So it does not mean when we say there will be results within a year, it does not mean that you will become the Buddha or you become an Arhat or you will be able to fly within 1 or 2 years or anything like that. So when we start doing Dhamma practice, there is a goal, there is an aspiration, there is a goal that we are trying to achieve. So whatever that goal may be, you should compare yourself when you started your Dhamma practices and now. So compare yourself from when you started and now, in the sense of how much closer you are to the goal that you are, how much closer are you to that goal. So if you are practicing the Dhamma practice, if you are doing Dhamma practice in order to become rich, in order to become most powerful, if you are practicing Dhamma to beat your opponent, you beat your business partner or whatever, this may not be the right thing. If it's not working, if you wanted to become the most powerful person in your company and by doing Dhamma practice it does not help, there are two things. First thing is that Dhamma practice is not for these kind of things, and it does not mean that there are no such Dhamma practices or spiritual practice, religious practices that actually can help you enhance in these kind of pursuits as well. So if you are, for example, if you are doing a meditative practice on shunyata or emptiness and impermanence in order to become rich, then maybe you're not doing the right kind of religious practice, because you will not become rich by doing that practice. So there are other methods to become so. But the first thing of course, is to become business savvy. You have to become very smart in business dealing, and then you can become rich. By doing Dhamma practices, you will not become rich. But of course, doing proper Dhamma practices, you will gain peace of mind. And when you have peace of mind, you will have mental stability. And by gaining mental stability, if you happen to have some sort of business kind of savviness within you, then you will be able to unleash that talent within you and you will become successful through Dhamma practice. But Dhamma practice will not yield the result of making you prosperous just because you practice the Dhamma properly. So in conclusion, you have to think, you have to compare how much you have changed from the time you have started until now. And if there has been a considerable amount of change since you started doing Dhamma practice till now, then actually you are going on the right path. As I said earlier, no matter how much you run on the treadmill, you'll never get anywhere. But if you start running outside the treadmill, then you will get somewhere. And if you have got somewhere since you have started, that means you are not on the treadmill. You are actually walking outside the treadmill. You are walking outside the box.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I think it's pretty late for you now in New York, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, we can save the other question for next time.
Okay. I think there's one last question, right?
We do, but you want to answer today?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I will take that one and then we will wrap up.
Okay, I'll read that question. Rinpoche, sometimes we pursue the Dharma path, but it does not give us the result we desire. We also suffer from it. Is there a difference between suffering on the Dharma path versus suffering with the mundane life? Thank you, Rinpoche.
So usually when somebody sticks even a single needle to our body, to pierce a needle to our body, we shriek, we shout, we scream in pain. But when we get sick, we get injection, which at which time, we get, even though there is pain, we endure the pain. Similarly, normally, if somebody tries to stab us with knife, we will just fight with that person, try to fight with that person, scream and all that. But when we get really sick, we endure through everything. Even though we do take anesthesia, but still, we let the doctors cut through our body when they do surgery, and then we endure all these things because we know the end result is something that is, even though we don't want people to pierce into our body, even though piercing our body is not unendurable, and making people cut our body is not something that we would enjoy, but due to the goal that we are seeking, when we get really sick, when there is no other option but we have to take a surgery in order to escape the more troublesome suffering that we are going through, we actually let the doctors cut our body, to do surgery on our body. Sometimes we even let them cut our limbs, our hands, when we have frostbite and all that thing. We let the doctors cut our legs, we let the doctors cut our hand, and so on and so forth. Even though the pain, that kind of suffering is unendurable, but at the same time, we have a greater goal in mind, and so therefore it is worth risking and worth sacrificing. So similarly, when you suffer in samsara, in general, and when you suffer for the sake of pursuing the Dharma practice, even though their suffering is there, even though pain is there in both cases, but the the reason or the purpose of going through or enduring that pain is totally different, and the end goal is much more pleasant when you endure the pain for the sake of Dharma. So therefore, it is worth risking. So even though the pain itself may be different, same, but the result is different. So therefore, it is worth taking that risk. Oh yeah, Tochiche, thank you. Come on, let's conclude the dedication prayers, please. 夜晚的